Welcome everyone to Three Drams for January 2026. Hope you're doing well and you've got three lovely whiskies in front of you. If you don't have three whiskies in front of you, I hope you have something to warm you up. Whether you're being flooded out of existence on the east coast of Ireland or frozen out of existence on the east coast of the United States, whiskies will help, I hope. Again, not medical advice, but whiskey cures much. Looking forward to three great whiskies tonight and working our way through three whiskies that are very new to the market. They've all been released in the last 2 months, and looking forward to sharing them with the people behind them. Three very different whiskies. We've got a single grain, a single malt, and a non-GI compliant single pot still, which we'll explain more about when we get to it. So three very different whiskies. Let us know in the comments where you're joining from. I see some folks here, it's their first time joining us. The format's very simple and it's very informal. My name is Barry Chandler. I'm the host, and my job is to help the makers share with you all they can about the whiskies they made, take your questions and try and get you more familiar with the people behind the whiskey, the places behind the whiskey, and of course the pours, and help you fall in love with the world of Irish whiskey. Each of our makers will have 20 minutes to talk to us in a little speed dating version of whiskey tasting, and they'll explain a little bit about their backgrounds, the business that they're representing, and then lead us on a tasting of their whiskies. You are free to add as many questions as you want into the chat, throw in as many complaints, insults in there as you want. We've thick skin, we can handle them. And whatever you want to know about the whiskies, now's your chance to put these questions to the people who make the whiskies. And if they can't answer the questions, I'm sure they'll be able to get the answer for you and share it with you later on. If it's your first time, welcome. Lots of familiar faces in the chat there as well. Often there's as much crack happening in the chat with the banter as there is on screen, so feel free to chat away there. I hope you're staying warm anyway. The United States is still freezing cold. Ireland is still sodden wet. If you're managing to avoid all of that, you're doing well. Your time will come, I'm sure. We're not out of the winter yet. How we like to work our way through the whiskies is very simple, really. Line up your whiskies. You've got three whiskies. We go through them in the order that they're numbered 1, 2, and 3. My recommendation is always, if you can, have 3 glasses with ready for your whiskies, and pour maybe half of each of the whiskies into your glass. Leave half in the bottle. You might want to come back to it later and perhaps compare with new knowledge and new evolution of your appreciation, thanks to hearing maybe tasting notes or approaches from our makers as well. So always leave a little dribble in the bottle for comparison later. Water is always a good thing. Water is whiskey's friend. A little bit of room temperature water will help open up your whiskies as well, especially as we get towards our very strong 58% ABV cask strength whiskey at the end. We can unlock some more of those volatile compounds with a few drops of water. But however you enjoy your whiskey is entirely up to you. We're not going to get too academic unless you want to here tonight. We've got all parts of the world joining us: Galway, Las Vegas, Armagh, Leopardstown, Derry, Berlin, Germany, Athy. And we've got our guests are all over the world as well. Our guests are in Ireland, Scotland, and Australia, of all places. So it's an international panel, an international audience. For those of you who were lucky enough to order one of our Stories and Sips single cask bottles there in the last few weeks from JJ Corrie, well done. That was our 19-year-old special release, our marriage of malts from both Bushmills and Cooley distilleries, and sold out, which is great news. If you got hold of a bottle, you're very lucky. We're going to be scheduling a tasting for those of you who are interested in joining a live tasting with the maker, Louise McGuan, founder of JJ Corrie Irish Whiskey, and that was a great success. So delighted that you were able to get your hands on that. Stories and Sips is the sister club to Three Drams, where we release single casks of whiskey. I think we've released 16 of them now at this stage, and we've got regular events and tastings that we hold as well. Originally developed for an American audience, and so lots of our events are held late at night Irish time, but all of the events are recorded. So last night we had a Bushmills tasting, a kind of an evening, a deep dive into Bushmills. Did an hour and a half talking about the history of Bushmills, and that's available on storiesandsips.com. As a Three Drams member, you get access to that. How you get access to that, I'll show you. In your dashboard, you'll see a link to Stories and Sips on your profile. So just click on your profile, click on Stories and Sips, and it'll take you to register for a free account on Stories and Sips. And there you will find details of our Bushmills event last night. We had a Redbreast event a month ago as well. So lots of great content there to help you on your whiskey journey. Okay, so one more point there before we go on to our whiskies. Jamie says he missed last month's live session, unfortunately. Yeah, look, it's not easy to keep up with all the sessions. I know the challenges of life get in the way. All of our sessions always available as a replay on the website, 3drams.com. Just click on the live tastings link and you'll see all of the recordings going back to March of last year. They're all there. And this one will be up there in the next 24 hours as well. As simple as that. All right, we'll give Finian a heads up. He'll be joining us now with Black Emerald in the next minute or two. So take whiskey number one, folks, and pour a drop in for yourself into your glass. And we will bring Finian on to join us. There he is now. Finian, how are you?
I'm good, Barry. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the support. Representing Black Emerald Irish whiskey. Finian, you're in Australia. What's a man doing? What's an Irishman doing in Australia talking about Irish whiskey?
As all good stories, it was I found the love of my life and we ended up down here. But there was a bit of a wandering path before we made it. So we're based down in Melbourne now. But yeah, we're on the other side of the weather that you're getting, Barry. We had 44 degree Celsius, 120 degree day the other day. So
yeah. Not interested.
Yeah.
Don't want to know.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your the world of Irish whiskey you've been involved in for a few years, and then maybe introduce us to the Black Emerald brand before we do a little tasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I followed a well-trodden path now. I started with the Jameson graduate program. So from Cork, I went to UCC, did commerce and Chinese, and ended up being placed out in Asia for my 3 years on the program. So I was in Vietnam initially, Japan for a year in Tokyo, and then I moved to Shanghai, where that was my original goal, and spent about 2.5, 3 years with the kind of graduating out of the Jameson graduate program into the Pernod alumni network. Had a wonderful time there, worked across a bunch of cocktail spirits, not just Jameson, and then had the chance to move to the States, not far from where you are now, Barry. And I was in Brooklyn for about 7 years, looking after mostly the champagne portfolio for Pernod over there, which was a great opportunity to see the other side, but also just to get to see the American market overall. It was still, I suppose, even the time that I was there from 2016 to 2023, Irish whiskey was still just kind of in that phase of just unbelievable growth, still driven a lot by Jameson and Redbreast and everything within the Pernod portfolio. And then a few years ago, I decided I was kind of ready to start do something myself. I stepped out, and I'm part of another business that's in the States that kind of deals with secondary markets. So a lot of the collectible side of whiskey, particularly on the bourbon side and Scotch. But my graw for Irish whiskey and the kind of personality of the Irish whiskey category hadn't gone. And over time, I got to know Ernest Cantillon as well, one of my co-founders, who people might be familiar with through all of his work in Cork with all the pubs and restaurants. And Simon Zebo, who was coming to the end of his career, and there we are. he was looking. I think he came to Ernest and he said, "I'm going to open a bar or a restaurant." And Ernest said, "For the love of God, please don't do that. You'll lose all of the money you made in rugby." But we started kicking around this idea of a whiskey brand, and for me, I'd been out there selling Jameson for a long time, and I think what had always got people super excited about it was just how fun it was compared to what they knew about whiskey. And obviously whiskey as a total category was going through a lot of change over that time as well. And our whole concept with Black Emerald, it's one of these things, once we gave it a name, it really kind of took on a life of its own. But the whole idea is about bringing people together, getting back to the root of what whiskey is about, removing any of the red tape that started appearing. And after I had worked in Champagne, I was, I suppose, more aware of that than if I had just been in whiskey. I hated how difficult it was for people to get to understand what makes it special and why you should drink it, or why certain regions or grapes are better than others. Like, just felt, and I felt whiskey was getting a little towards that territory because we were all kind of, I suppose, predisposed to like the Macallans of the world. That's the aspiration in terms of what brand growth should look like, or whatever it might be. Anyway, so the long and short of it was we had this great idea that, let's celebrate modern Ireland, let's celebrate Irish whiskey again and bring a bit of crack back in, because if anyone knows Simon or Ernest, there's a lot of energy and a lot of crack on that side of the founders as well. And then when we went looking for liquid, and we'll talk about it today if everyone has obviously a dram in front of them, hopefully. The realities of the Irish whiskey market are it's very hard to compete on pot still with Middleton, and it's very hard to compete on single malt if you're a new brand, just because it's been around for a long time. A lot of people have older single malt. Obviously, the man in this photo here, John Teeling, has a lot of old single malt as well. And I felt like if we were going to tell a different story, we kind of needed to approach our liquid in the same way. And I actually tried it was a 16-year-old at the time, I think, cognac finished single grain when I was up in Great Northern Distillery, and I was just like, this is like nothing else I had tasted. I'm a big fan of grain, Scottish grain as well. Once it gets older, I think the roundness and the complexity is wonderful. It's very fun, floral and fruity. And with Irish whiskey, it felt strange that it's in so many of the bottles. I think you mentioned in the prequel to this, it's like undisclosed percentage of Jameson, and it's in Powers, it's in Bushmills, it's in so many of these blends that people are now drinking from the new brands. And it felt like Pinot Meunier and Champagne, which is like the forgotten grape. No one talks about it. It's there, but it's like, why aren't we talking about this incredible spirit that we are making? The reality is it can be a bit abrasive initially, right, when it's younger, but if you give it time and give it the right barrel, it just comes to life. So the rum that we're going to taste today was kind of a good expression of that, I think.
So Black Emerald is an all single grain approach to a whiskey lineup.
Correct. Yep. Our ethos is fairly straightforward. It's always single grain, always with an age statement, always with a finish. I think the realities of working in the US market as well. It's such a cluttered space. There's so many brands. There's so many different. Like if anyone's been into a Total Wine or one of the large liquor stores in the States, it's so hard to stand out, even beyond the challenges that you'd have even at a more regional off license. And we were like, we have to be very straightforward. We have to tell people what this is. It has to feel connected to Ireland, but kind of new. So that we worked with an Irish artist based in Germany actually to do these labels that are kind of an expression of the flavor profile. And then the single grain felt like, there's a sweetness to it that'll be approachable to bourbon or non-whiskey drinkers, but there's a complexity for the kind of whiskey nerds like us as well. So yeah, that was kind of what we were trying to find the balance of.
Where does the name come from then? A black emerald, an unusual stone, perhaps?
Yeah, totally. We wanted some sort of nod to the Emerald Isle, I suppose. So we were kind of working around the word emerald, and we were thinking, when I started doing research on that, a black emerald it looks black to the naked eye, but when you hold it up to the light, it's actually green. So it's the darkest of the emerald stones that you can get. And that kind of reminded me of the story that you always tell people when they're drinking a pint of Guinness, that actually it's red, it's not black. And this kind of idea that there's a discovery of Irishness to go on there as well, if you know what I mean. It was like, there's not one shade of green for Ireland. There's not one shade of green for Irish whiskey. And there's so much more to it than I think, some of the more traditional stereotypes that outside of Ireland people might associate with us as people and us as whiskey. Yeah.
Like the Guinness being red, isn't there a scene in Father Ted where he says the priest socks aren't black at all? They're just very, 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 very dark blue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a bit more niche for us to be telling.
A bit more niche, yeah.
On the back of a label, but yeah.
Okay, so which of these expressions are we tasting tonight?
We're tasting the 7-year-old rum finish. So, it's funny, actually, this label, and John, I know you're having John from Lighthouse on later. This was a hand-done label that we did before we had actually done our first official run. So you guys, anyone who orders it will have the even more beautiful version. But this one, we wanted to have something a little bit more approachable. I suppose in price point and in flavor for people who are non-whiskey drinkers, is the cognac is a bit more complex. I tasted, I think, about 16 different rum finished single grains from Great Northern, and this one, although it says 7 years, I suppose a bit of a behind the curtains, the liquid in this bottle now is actually closer to 10, and it's finished in a Florida rum barrel, so it's a specific part of the kind of Caribbean landscape. But what I really liked about it is it had one of those noses that I kept, when you smell a whiskey and you kind of put it down and then you come back to it again, you're like, was that what and it just kept drawing me back. you get a lot of the oak, a lot of the sweetness, a lot of the kind of grain comes through initially. And I think for me, there's also a little bit of tartness in there, which some people think is like cherry, or I personally, I think it's harder to find than the sweetness, but it is there, and you're kind of wondering, okay, is this going to be complex when I actually get a chance to taste it as well? But it's bright, it's fruity, it's fun. It's supposed to be, this is a whiskey that's great if you're trying to warm yourself up in the winter because it's so cold outside, or it's beautiful sunny day and you just want to make a highball. It's refreshing and kind of, all the things that you're looking for from the rum side of the equation.
Single grain is fast becoming every distillery now wants to have some version of a
Yes.
single grain. And it's such a unique flavor profile that was long overlooked and almost derided for some strange reason, despite the fact that if it's matured the right way and isn't overpowered by wood, it's an unbelievable note to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes it feels like you have to do a bit more of a dance with grain in a barrel. It's like it might not be there for a long time, and then overnight it'll be like, oh, hello, I'm here. And then I think as well, when people taste it now, it takes you on a bit of a journey that's different to the pot stills and the malts. I think it's a little bit more upfront, and then at the back it just opens up in an incredible way. And for me, when everyone here is tasting it, like the milk chocolate kind of orange citrus profile of this is what got my palate very excited. I think there's hints of pineapple and a bit more of the vanilla from the wood coming through on that. But the way I was describing it, when you get to kind of the finish, is like it's almost like the end of a sip of a pina colada. That's the type of rum profile that I wanted to find. Something just kind of creamy, a little sweet, but very rounded, and something that definitely makes you want to have another glass of it, if you know what I mean. Something that felt very Moorish and sessionable, as we say in Ireland as well.
Will we have a sip? Sláinte?
Yeah, let's go for it. Sláinte. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, even bits of coconut. I think as well, as I was saying about the American market, like I think for someone who's used to drinking something a bit sweeter, this is very approachable, but it's not overly sweet for people who don't want something. You know what I mean? It's kind of finds a nice balance in between.
Coconut is definitely there, a little banana.
Yes, yep.
Creaminess, they talk about the chocolate or kind of the cream of a pina colada is present as well.
Yeah.
And 45% alcohol by volume.
Do you find? Yeah, sorry, it's 45% as well. We should let people know 90 proof.
So there's a good length to it. I get, to me, the orange continues on into the finish for me.
Yeah. I think again with the grains, what's interesting about them, even like a bottle being open over the course of a few days, a new bottle will even change quite a lot. I feel a lot of the time when we're with the Black Emerald bottles, if we're doing a tasting or something, like open them up beforehand. You don't have to say pour them, but like let the initial spiritousness of the whiskey and the grain spirit have a moment to settle, and then it just rounds out beautifully. And I think a drop of water, I think you were mentioning that earlier, like drop of water does a great job for this as well. But what's fun about it is because it's got enough of a sweetness and a backbone, it also does really well in cocktails. It kind of stays around, it doesn't get swallowed up. So we even recommend, for people who want to switch up things like an espresso martini, it's fun to do it in there. You get a bit more of a brightness to that drink, or the highball, as I said, or just in like something a bit more classic, like an old fashioned, very big wedge of orange and lemon on the top.
Extra ABV carries in the cocktail too. Doesn't
correct?
Like I said, doesn't get diluted.
Exactly. Yeah.
A good maybe time to remind people that adding water to whiskey is not defeat. It's enjoyment. Totally. It's appreciation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think for us with Black Emerald as well, one of the things, if we're trying to break, like not us personally, but if we're trying to make whiskey accessible to those who have not yet drank the Kool-Aid, putting any sort of barrier, and we find this with champagne all the time, like putting any sort of barrier makes it already a little bit intimidating, right? One, that it has to be in this glass. Two, that it has to be without water, with ice, without ice. Like, you can never, like, I think the reality of it for me is just like, drink it however you want. Like if it's really hot and you want to put an ice cube in it, go for
Hmm.
your life. Like it might actually
Yeah.
be the right thing to do in that environment. If you're in a mood for something a bit neater, like for me, I really like, after the kids are to bed and I'm doing a bit of work or something, a nice neat pour to just sit on as I do some work is wonderful. But then if I'm like out with friends and we're gonna have a few drinks, I'd like something a bit longer and a bit more. So the occasions move, people change environments. Like there's so many, a drop of water is an interesting experiment to do if people aren't familiar with doing it, because it's just, as you say, like it pushes the flavor profiles around and the esters completely change, and it's fun. It's like a little mini science experiment.
I love a single grain with Pepsi Max. I love it.
Do you know
I'm
what?
not good. It's
It's so
a
funny.
great combination. I'm not going to apologize to anybody because I paid my money for the grain. It's
Yeah,
just, it works perfectly. Works perfectly.
yeah. You're not the. Do you know what's funny? You're not the first. So I've got a friend down here who works with me on my other business, and he's a incredible palate, and he drinks Pepsi Max between tastings because he believes it's a good palate cleanser, and
What an
he
educated
also
man he
loves.
is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then he also loves. He loves a like grain forward spirit.
Yeah.
With Pepsi Max as well. It's so fun. That's yeah.
We should
You
maybe
need to
include it in our
trademark that,
next
Larry.
tasting kit. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
exactly.
you go. Now, a
Yeah,
signature serve,
yeah,
Emerald
yeah. There you
Max.
go. We'll call it the Chandler.
Chandler. There better be a shilling or two in it for me along the way.
That's right. Absolutely.
What role then does Simon Zebo play in the whiskey side of things, apart from obviously
Yeah.
drawing interest from those in the world of rugby? What's his role in the company?
Yeah, totally. So, well, first of all, he claims himself to be a Black Emerald, so that's a good first start. Um, you know, a creative crack is definitely one thing that he does naturally wherever he goes. But I think what's been incredible getting to know Simon even more over the last couple of years is he's so passionate about whatever he puts his mind to, right? And the story that's interesting is his dad was actually featured on Nationwide, which, for those who don't know, is a very popular Irish television show, at least back in the 80s, for having the biggest whiskey collection in Ireland at the time. At least that's what that to be discovered. So whiskey ran in his family, and he speaks about it more eloquently than I will, but whiskey for him and his household, his dad only ever drank when he was with friends, and he had friends over
Mm,
all the time. So it was always about like sharing that dram with a person, welcome them into your home. And the thread that ties myself, Ernest, and Simon together, I suppose, is that kind of the hospitality angle to all of this. Like there's nowhere we agree on a few things. Like there's nowhere better at a party than being in the kitchen. There's nowhere better than when you're at home hosting a party, because you get to kind of welcome people into your space, pour some drinks for them, open up your bar. And his role now, obviously, it helps us open doors with media, with distributors, with retailers, like people are interested to meet
yeah.
him. But then I think they're surprised when they get him in the room that he's actually there to talk whiskey. He's obviously, they try and pull him off for selfies and things like that, but he's like, and so are we gonna make an order here? And
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's
yeah.
really he's thrown himself into the I suppose the study of whiskey too. So he knows a lot about the liquid and the process and everything now. And he had a great time meeting John Teeling up in Great Northern as well. That was a funny day.
What's the plan for the range then? You have a 7-year-old, you have a 15-year-old. Are there plans to A, export outside of
Yeah.
Ireland, and then B, maybe expand the range in time?
Yeah, totally. And great question. So we've got cases on the water to America right now. They should be arriving, I think, end of Feb or so. Australia, not just because I'm here, but obviously because it's quite a good Irish whiskey market. And then a couple of other markets internationally that we're looking at, like South Africa. We've kind of done a little bit of a trial down there. That's interesting. And I think the reality is, where there's a bit of a juxtaposition for people understanding what Irishness is, that we can kind of be a bit of a counterweight to like a modern expression of that. From
Okay.
a range perspective, I have many plans. The team will have to tell you when they might be happening, but we've kind of set it up in a way, I suppose, a little bit inspired by the spots from Middleton. Like we want there to be something available at the right price points, but also kind of unique in its style that you would want to try the journey. So, I'm excited about things like rye and tequila and different
Mm,
ages, and that I think, as we said, always always single grain, always with an age statement, always with a finish. There's plenty that you can do even within just those 3 parameters. So I have a laundry list of things I'd like to do, but we're going to start with these 2 first. Yeah.
It'd be great to see how rye play, or how single grain plays with all of the various cask types, because it does absorb a lot of flavors quickly, doesn't it? And a single grain. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
A couple of questions on locations, or one mention here from Colin about India opening up to the EU. Do you think there'll be a market for this there, and where else? Is this a price point that would fit in India, or what do you think about the new developments?
It's a good question. And I work with a lot of American brands too, who kind of go to India with a younger version of their core range, I suppose, to try and be actually competitive at price. That being said, you're talking about 200, 300 million, young people coming online with a bit of money in their pocket, who have more connection to whiskey than most other countries in the world, right? Obviously, it's a very specific Indian forward single malt expression that they're used to, but there's such a journey that whiskey community is going to go on. And I think also there's a lot of exciting new distilleries popping up in India as well. So I think the markets might inform. It's also just such a huge place. It's like saying, we're going to go after Asia. It's like the same kind of equation. It's like, well, what part, where does it resonate? But I think from what I understand, Jameson is now the #1 imported whiskey brand in India. So they're doing a lot of the legwork, like they've overtaken Johnny Walker. So they're doing huge legwork for just building the category, as they always do. So definitely in the future, but to what profile or age, or it's hard to know at this stage, I think.
That's the trick. Let the big boys go out and spend the money and carve the trenches, and you go in after them.
Exactly, yeah. Keeping the investors happy,
That's it, exactly. Well, this is great. Any other questions, folks, for Finian before we let him go? Again, single grain. We'll be sharing some discount codes to get access to all 3 of the whiskies tonight. I'll share that at the end for you all, so you're not disrupted from your tasting experience. Gary has a question. I don't know if it's aimed at you or the whiskey. Any chance of popping across the Tasman Sea, Finian? Maybe it's yourself.
Absolutely. I've got some very good friends down there, and I'm overdue a visit, so I will be down very shortly with a few bottles in my pocket.
There you go now. Lots of people noticing the coconut, lots of people liking the balance throughout, and some good feedback. Very fruity, oaky notes. Rum finish is definitely shining through. Lots of coconut. Very good.
Great.
Simon wants you to send some sun back up.
If I bring it out to, when you bring bottles to a whiskey meet or to someone's house for a party, whatever, this one never comes home full. Like, it is always just complete, like it's empty by the end of the night, because I think it is so approachable. So, but what's funny is a lot of the whiskey heads will naturally go towards a 15-year-old, 48% ABV, more complex, more to it, very unique profile. But by the end of the night, just in terms of sessionability, everyone is having a glass of the rum. It's just it's very Moorish, pulls you back.
Sessionable, always a great selling adjective there. Daniel's wondering, you mentioned it's going to the US. It's on a boat to the US, February-ish, heading to the US. Obviously not all states. Do you have any sense of where in the US it might head to?
We're actually, it's a great question. We're starting online exclusive, so we'll be doing DTC shipping to 43 states. We're going to, try and, I suppose, maximize our efficiency initially and find where the hot pockets are before we go and get distribution. But places like Chicago, New York, LA, there's lots of, we've already had a lot of inbound interest in it, I think, because we're kind of one of the first grain forward brands of Irish whiskey out there. So stay tuned, I would say. But online, you'll be able to find it for sure.
And keep us posted on that. We can share information in our American group too, so they know where to get it. Quick question as well. That'd be great. From Robert, if you could describe the 15-year-old. So the thirst has been activated here now with the 7-year-old. They don't want to stop there.
This is great. Yeah. Well, I think the benefit of the grain and I suppose the styles that we're trying to choose is that when you smell and taste the 15, you're going to notice that it does feel like Black Emerald. We've tried to have a consistency of thread there, so you'll get a bit of the sweetness from the grain again, a bit of the oak coming through. It's been in that cognac barrel for about 10 months as well, so it's got the presence, but it's amazing. It's still very balanced. But what I loved about that, and the label, that's what I was saying, the labels are kind of designed to be a little bit more reflective of the flavor profile. So for me, it's like caramel, butterscotch, like hints of coffee and toffee and all of that, but in a really like rounded, sweet way. And the orange that you get on the rum, which is where I find more the orange, people actually get more of like a Terry's chocolate orange on the 15. So there is a connection on that flavor profile as well. What I like about the cognac finish as well, for like, there's a bit of tannin there, which is nice and kind of like dry in a good sense, and then it's sweet at the back. And the one thing that people always say when they do taste the 15 is the 7 has a good finish, but the 15 hangs around forever and ever. It's just like you could walk away and in 10 minutes later you're still tasting it. It just has this that was, I suppose, as I said, that was why I got onto this grain and this flavor profile. I was just like, this is so special. And I don't think there's anything right now on the Irish whiskey market that is like it. I'm sure that will change, that as it always does. But like straight single grain for 15 years and then 9-10 months in cognac, I don't think there's anything out there right now, at least. That is like it. Yeah.
Very good. And there are bundles of both of them available on Irish Malts. Again, we'll share the discount code later on after whiskey number 3. Finian, thanks a million for joining us and for sharing your whiskey with us. Congratulations on the launch of the brand and the best of luck with it. And let us know if we can help you in any way or find some thirsty mouths and throats for future releases. We're always here.
Absolutely. Well, I think you'll be the first people we'll have to come to if we're testing any of the new releases too. But thanks to the community as well for dialing in tonight and listening to me waffle on for a while. But appreciate the support, Barry.
We really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Finian.
Slàinte.
Talk to you soon. Cheers. Now, lovely Dram. Whiskey number 2 is up next. We're going to be joined shortly for our second whiskey, which comes from Ballina Distillery, and we'll be joined by Stacey Longworth, their blending manager, who's going to join us very shortly. So get your whiskey number 2 ready. And again, if you can keep a bit of number 1 in the glass or in your bottle. Some of you are looking at me with raised eyebrows going, what? Keep it? But in any case, it's helpful to compare them all again later. All 3 whiskies will be available to buy for those of you who do want to make a purchase later. We've got discount codes that we'll share with you as well. All right, so let us now go from Australia to Scotland, and we're going to bring, 1 second, let me get, there we go, that's the right person. Stacey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Barry. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us, and you're very welcome. Your first time on 3 Drams and flying the flag for the newly rebranded Ballina Distillery.
Yes.
Stacey, tell us a little bit about your own role and your background in the world of whiskey before we talk about this second dram of the night.
So, yeah, I'm blending and inventory manager at Tullibardine. I manage all of the single malts, all the blends, and all of the maturing inventory that we have here and off-site in our third-party warehouses. And in the past 1.5 to 2 years, I also now manage the Irish portfolio as well. So I got into whiskey, well, I've been at Tullibardine anyway for the past 4 years. I started as more of a lab and blending analyst, and it's kind of developed over the past 4 years to where I now manage the maturing inventory. Before that, I worked in a lab. I was an analytical research scientist for the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, and I analysed whiskey Monday to Friday, but I wasn't really involved in the direct process of making whiskey, so I decided to come out into industry and took the job here at Tullibardine.
That's very interesting. Tell us more about the research role and what was that? What was the goal of your work there?
So I started out, I did a 3-month that turned into an 8-month placement with them. And my project was analysing terpenes, which are aroma compounds. And I had to analyse their levels in wine finish whiskies. And it was going to potentially be used as a method of identification of adulterated whiskies or inauthentic whiskies. So from there, they offered me a job, and yeah, I just expanded in the role and ended up analysing phenols, ethyl carbamate, a lot of different compounds in whiskey.
I'm always fascinated by people who have incredible noses to detect every element of every note of every flavor. And not only that, but then to be able to point to which stage of the process that exact note came from is always fascinating to me. Like, I'll never tire of hearing about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I suppose I had the technical application of it in the lab, and now I'm in the distillery where I can actually nose those compounds directly from the cask. So being able to match those two aspects up is quite interesting.
How different is Tullabarden from the Ballina distillery? How do they differ, or how are they alike?
Quite different, I would say, in their style. So Ballina is obviously a lot smaller than the amount of whiskey that we produce here. It's definitely more of a craft distillery, small batch. We do maximum about 10 casks. We fill 10 casks a week. The fermentation is extended. It's up to 7 days. The distillation is incredibly slow. So yeah, they're two very different distilleries.
And distillation is slow by choice or by equipment?
Oh, maybe now after 10 years of running, it's not by choice, but no. Yeah, it's definitely something that we choose to do, that we feel is reflected in the quality of the spirit at the end of the day.
In Ireland, we always talk about blends as being the different styles brought together, whereas for many blenders, they're not, especially in the Scotch whisky world, not working with different styles. Rather, it's blends or marrying malts together. So help us understand your role when it comes to blending, because especially with the likes of on the Irish side, Ballina, you're just working with single malts, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. So I would say in a blending role, a lot of the time I'd say 80% of your job is actually making the products that you do produce consistent. So whether someone buys the product here or in Boston, for instance, it's the same spirit no matter where they purchase it. With us being quite new, and in the past year and a half, 2 years, producing these new expressions, it's really been an opportunity to work on the blending aspect of the role and look at the maturing inventory and see what works well. And so that's been exciting to actually create these products and see what works well together, see what marries together to create a really rounded product with a lot of depth.
Let's talk about the newly renamed and rebranded Ballina Distillery then. So former Connacht Distillery, which I think started distilling around 2016. And over the last couple of years, you've taken it under your wing and decided it needed a different name, a different brand, and put your own perhaps stamp on it going forward.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So as you said, yeah, the distillery was actually built in 2015 and it opened in 2016. So they have been producing for a good decade at this point. But over the past year and a half, we've undertaken a full rebrand of the products, and we've been able to create these two new expressions. But you're right in saying that we rebranded in terms of the name. We decided to go with Ballina because the distillery is based in Ballina, and it really brings the product back to the place and gives it a sense of place.
We're going to taste the Dubelta, the double distilled single malt this evening. So you've got two expressions on the market that you've brought out under your own brand now, under your own auspices. How much of it's a tricky question, but when you evaluated all of the spirit, did you think that's grand, it went in one direction, but we want to take the malt in a different direction? Or did you think, you know what, this is going the way we want, it's got the flavor profile we want? How much of that can you talk about, or is there to talk about?
Well, there was a lot of sampling because, as I said, they had 10 years worth of maturing inventory. So we had a lot to play with, actually. We had a lot of maneuverability with the product. There was a lot of sampling, a lot of blends, a lot of pilot blends before we actually landed on these two products. And it was interesting as well, given that it's an Irish distillery, that they had quite a large amount of maturing inventory that was double distilled, which is what you would liken more to a Scotch product. So I would say that the double distilled, double wood is kind of has a foot in both countries. Really, it's a bit of Scotch, it's a bit of Irish, and then obviously we have the triple wood, triple distilled product as well, which is more of a true Irish expression.
Very good. So maybe Stacey, you could let us know, what do we have here then in this expression?
Yeah, so this is I will let you pronounce it because I may butcher the pronunciation, but this is our yes, thank you. This is our double wood, double distilled product, and it is 55% bourbon and 45% Oloroso sherry. This came about, as I say, from multiple different pilot blends, and we decided to land on this split between the bourbon and the Oloroso sherry. So for us on the nose, you're going to get a lot of sweetness initially, a lot of high level fruity notes like pear and apple, and then that quite quickly develops into like more complex notes of vanilla, butterscotch, fudge. And you actually get a little bit of a hint of the spice of the Oloroso sherry as well in the nose. And then I think all of these notes translate quite well into the palate.
Slodge.
Again, there's a lot of sweetness there, more of that Oloroso spice.
The richness is coming through from the sherry cask, isn't it?
A little bit of oiliness as well. There's a lot of body to this expression.
Would you attribute that to the double distillation as opposed to the cask type, or is it a mixture of both?
I would say it's a mixture of both. So it is 55% bourbon, so you're going to get a lot of the sweetness from the American oak.
Yep.
The casks have been toasted and charred as well, so you're going to get a lot of those wood sugars coming through. The Oloroso sherry provides that lovely warming spiciness and a little bit of nuttiness as well on the nose and the palate. But I would say the expression has a lot of depth as well because it is just double distilled, so it's only gone through 2 rounds of distillation. So you are going to get some of those, not in a bad way, but you're going to get some of those slightly heavier congeners coming through that haven't necessarily gone through that third stage of distillation where they've been stripped away. They're going to come through in the final spirit.
No, pear and apple are notes that are coming through for folks as well on the nose.
Yes. So I would attribute that mostly, the apple and pear notes, I would say that that's definitely from the extended fermentation. We're able to really allow the yeast to do its thing. It's under no stress at all. It can just gently work away and create this really interesting aroma profile that obviously can translate and persist through distillation to end up in the final product.
For those who might not be familiar with the difference in terms of the final product when it comes to double versus triple distillation, you talked about some of the congeners there. Are there other things we should know about the difference between both approaches and how that affects the final product?
Oh, definitely. So as I say, the more times you go through distillation, the more reflux you introduce to the process. So reflux is, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but reflux is basically the process of boiling the spirit so that it goes into vapor and liquid, vapor and liquid. The more times that you do that, you strip more of the congeners out of the spirit. So the more times that you distill a product, the lighter distillates end up in the final product. So you tend to find that with the triple, the profile is a lot mellower, lighter and fruitier, which you do get on the double, but I would say it has a lot more depth and complexity because some of those heavier congeners have been retained in the spirit.
Yeah. And like you said, historically, traditionally, even though in both Scotland and Ireland we can double or triple distill, we did tend to lean into triple in Ireland and lean into double in Scotland. But But we're seeing more double now in Ireland. I don't think you're seeing much more triple in Scotland, but we're seeing a lot more double in Ireland, I think, over the last few years.
All right, okay, that's good. That's interesting. We are seeing a couple of triple products, and we recently actually had someone did a quadruple distillation release, which was really interesting. We're not quite there yet. We don't plan on putting in a fourth still at Ballina anytime soon.
There's no point, is there?
No.
What would that end up giving us? Something closer to vodka and very high proof, or what's left after fourth distillation?
You get to a point where essentially you just have neutral alcohol
right.
with very little aroma congeners present, which is what you want vodka to be. But for whiskey, we like something a little bit more complex.
You mentioned the difference in sizes between Tullibardine and Ballina. Will you give us some sense of what the output is or the capacity at Ballina when running perhaps a capacity?
So full capacity at Tullibardine, we can make just shy of 3 million. We have gone over 3 million litres of alcohol per year.
Wow.
For Ballina, top end at one point, they were making about 70,000. We have scaled that back and we're doing about 45,000 triple and about 10,000 double. So quite a difference in terms of output.
Massive difference, isn't there? And that's even by Irish standards, a very small distillery.
Yeah. We have more products. We have blends. We have single malts. We need that type of output to feed into those products. Where at Ballina it is smaller. It's more a craft distillery. We have small batches. It fits the product that we're making, and it suits us.
The distillery is open for visits as well, for tours. I know they're keen in Ballina to get people in the door and see the process. What are your plans for whether it's distillery exclusives or expanding the range going forward? Is there anything you can share with us about what you'd like to do or hope to do in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely want to continue with the single cask exclusives. We've got one lined up that will be released in the next couple of months. And perhaps in the future, we will expand into pot still whiskey as well, which I think would be quite a natural progression. But at the minute, we're very happy with our signature releases, our two new expressions.
And the distillery has made pot still whiskey in the past?
No, not at all.
No, not yet. No. Okay. Nope. You have the equipment.
We do.
Folks, there's no more questions you have in the comments there for Stacey. Alan says it'd be interesting to compare the double and the triple. Well, Alan, there's only one way to find out, and you can place your order at the end of the tasting and you'll get 10% off. Kieran says few drops of water really opens it up. And I think it always does. There's almost no whiskey where it doesn't. So I'd always have a little jug of water beside the whiskey. Simon is probably sick because he wants to know if there's a bit of salmon mixed in there. Simon, what did you have for dinner? Salmon from the River Moy, maybe, is it? Wayne says, yeah. Lovely sweet nose, also getting the saltiness and the taste. Where does salt is a saline, kind of a flavor note that people talk about. Where does that come from in the process of distillation?
Exactly. I have to be honest, I don't know. I'm going to hazard a guess at the mineral content of the water.
Okay.
Because obviously that can persist through fermentation. It's used by the yeast and then it can end up in the final product.
That's great feedback so far. And again, folks, this is what you're tasting here is the output of a very small distillery, and we haven't heard a lot from the distillery over the last 3 years. And I'm delighted now that there's a bigger push to get the products out into the market. But the range of sizes and scope of distilleries in Ireland is incredible. You know, a distillery that size is a fraction of the size of most of the big the big whiskey makers you're coming across on shelves. So it's interesting to taste something that's probably less efficient to make, and that's often to our benefit as a consumer, less great for the distillery and for the finance team. But it's something that it's worth trying from the smaller folks as well as the larger brands. John reckons the saltiness might come from the barley. Might do, depends where the barley's grown, I suppose, and the mineral content of the soil. Whether that works its way through distillation, I don't know. Yes, Simon, they have a visitor centre and they'll gladly welcome you in the door. Where is it retailed? So I know it's available on your shop right now, ballinawwhiskey.com. Irish Malts have it.
Irish Malt, yeah.
And
the Celtic Whisky Shop as well.
Okay, Celtic Whisky Shop as well. Okay. What do you talk about the age of the whiskey? So it's a non-age statement whiskey.
The non-age statement, yeah. The inventory that we've used is up to about 7 years old in both of the products.
Okay. Very good. And there's both of the releases there. Really unique bottle style too. Nothing like that on the market.
Yeah. So we really, well, obviously, as you know, the distillery is set on the River Moy. So we really wanted to, as part of renaming it Ballina and bringing it back to the town, we really wanted to incorporate the influence of the River Moy and the connection that the town has to the River Moy. Obviously, the Salmon Festival is there every year, which is a really big event. But it was just another nod to the connection between the distillery and the town and the heritage.
Really nice, and the nice embossing on the bottles. Dermot wondering if the Ballyhoo brand will continue. That was the sourced brand at Connacht, I believe. Not sure if you're familiar with that.
That is continuing, yeah, and I believe that's still on. It's at the distillery, and I think it's still on Amazon as well.
Some of the whiskey from previous years has ended up in interesting places. Like, I'm not sure if you know the Clare Island story where there's a cask of whiskey aging in a boat in the harbour in Clew Bay that came from the distillery.
I have heard of that, yeah, and I believe they can't call it whiskey. Is that right? Because it's not actually on any land.
Yeah, because it's aging in a boat, not a bonded warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
But your spirit went in there, which is interesting to see where the spirit goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lovely too. Lovely non-whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a spirit drink.
Yes.
And folks, if you don't want to get hold of these, again, these are very reasonably priced whiskies. We'll put they kindly offered a 10% discount code to buy from their shop. We'll put that up after the third whiskey as well this evening. So yeah, great to taste it, Stacey. Thanks so much for sharing it with us, and the best of luck with the future releases and with these releases. I hope they get very well received, and we're lucky to have your well-educated nose on the Irish side now, helping us with flavour profiles.
Thank you, Barry. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Stacey. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
All right. Lovely whiskey. Really enjoyable. And so a couple of other distilleries, or a few other distilleries that you'd be familiar with that make double distilled whiskey. Cooley Distillery is all double distilled whiskey. Killowen Distillery, mostly double distilled, few little experimentations with a third still. The Old Waterford Distillery, sadly closed at the moment, all double distilled. There's probably a few more that I'm forgetting as well. Tipperary double distilled perhaps. But definitely triple distilled is more common, but double distillation favoured by a lot of people as well. And the Irish technical file allows us to use to have both approaches, double or triple distillation. No quadruple distillation on this side yet. It's hard enough for us to get through the double and the triple distillations and drink all of them. All right, so folks, get your third whiskey ready. We're going to give John from Irish Malts a minute or two heads up there to get his tuxedo on and join us, and get your third whiskey poured into your glass. We're going to have an interesting one next because it doesn't fit any official style of Irish whiskey yet, and we'll talk about the reason for that, but you're tasting something that's quite unique. Little single cask of whiskey from Irish Malts. So pour that third whiskey into your glass, and we'll bring John on right now. John O'Donovan from Irish Malts, how are you?
This is Cork calling, and our 12 points goes to Barry Chandler.
the Eurovision will be held in Cork next year. Hey.
Yeah, sponsored by
So John is here in two roles. John is the man behind Lighthouse Drinks. John Donovan, founder of Lighthouse Drinks, which includes Irish Malts. And the reason you get your whiskies every month is because of this man. And if you don't get your whiskies every month, you can also blame this man. But all of the fulfillment, logistics, shipping is all thanks to John. And I've known John since, it's probably since the year you started your business, probably the year I started my business, going all the way back now, I'd say.
2018, was it?
Yeah, around then, yeah. Two young bucks. John has built an extraordinary business in Cork that covers almost everything except the making of the whiskey. Every other aspect of the process is handled in Cork: bottling, blending, shipping, retailing, labeling, bottle design, you name it. Unbelievable operation. John, no point me talking about you. You talk about yourself. Tell us about your. Well, you've also got a really interesting career before you ever joined Lighthouse Drinks, which you have to mention as well. But tell us about how you got into the world of alcohol and what you were doing before it.
Yeah, so 2018 started the whiskey business. Had an itch to be self-employed and go off and try and make it. But when I started a business in 2018, I was actually employed as a commercial airline pilot. Now, normally there's a joke that goes around, how do you know there's a pilot in the room? And then the answer is they'll tell you. But in this instance, I've been forced to say it by somebody else. Temporarily let go in COVID, along with tens of thousands of other pilots. And at that time, our e-commerce business was like booming the same way as any alcohol business was back then in 2020, 2021, when people weren't allowed to leave their homes. So like really a crazy transition from a very decent salary to an absolutely rubbish salary. And I wouldn't advise it to anybody, quite frankly. Yeah.
So you started Lighthouse Drinks with a goal of retailing alcohol, and at the time you were selling it out of London originally, were you?
There's a whole lot of pivots. There's like we initially thought we'd start selling, like if you remember back then, Barry, like that was still pretty early on the Irish whiskey days. I mean, we've cycled like that now in Irish whiskey, probably, if we were looking at it. Hopefully it'll cycle back up like that soon. But like then the gin was a massive, the Irish gin was becoming a massive thing, and unfortunately that didn't really take off, internationally, maybe not even domestically, you could argue, bar one or two brands. But so we just thought, like, with 60 or 70 million people in the UK, would we not like be a little upstart over there, coming up underneath Master and Malt and the Whiskey Exchange, who, by the way, are like mammoth businesses, but with a real emphasis on the Irish stuff. And we did that, and Brexit screwed that. Like, so Brexit truly screwed that business, even though it came off to a beautiful start to life. It did much better than we thought. We pulled the whole business back home to Ireland. Then we just said, look, let's just do it from Ireland, and we took it from there, really.
The first foray was retail only. You were riding the wave of COVID and post-COVID interest and the huge spike in demand for whiskey. It was like, I liken it to the post-World War II exuberance, people coming out of something they didn't know that they'd survive and deciding we're going to spend a lot of money. And you built kind of the retail arm on the back of that, didn't you?
Yeah, and like, looking back at it now, it was a crazy time. It really was like a time when people started getting back into Irish whiskey. Like, at the time, there was a time when you could say, this whiskey wasn't bottled for 100 years, it's from my granny's well. It would just sell like hotcakes. You didn't have to say any more than that. But like, I suppose what's happened is people have gotten more mature. They've learned a lot, I suppose, Barry, thanks to people like you, to be quite honest. It's a more mature market now, and people are probably looking for a bit more value than they were back then. But to kind of go back to your point, yeah, COVID boosted the life out of it. And the big pivot, the very big pivot at Lighthouse Drinks / Irish Malts was back around that time when single casks were, very hot. We were getting asked by all the brands that we were selling for, could we bottle them? And of course we were saying, well, no, we can't bottle them because you'd certainly need some form of certification or verification to do that. So with a bit of thinking and a bit of pressure, we went off and got the approvals from the relevant people to bottle, very small scale releases, and we did that. We built a 4 meter squared room with a 4-head filler and a 2-head rinser, all manual, a desktop labeler, and our first victim sent in sent in a IBC of whiskey. We probably didn't even know what an IBC was, Barry, the month before that. They sent in boxes of corks. I'm being dead honest. They sent in pallets of glass, and in theory, it's easy, yeah? The cork goes in the bottle, the whiskey goes in the bottle, the label goes in the bottle. But in reality, it's actually like it's a manufacturing animal, and there's an awful lot of things that are associated with. So, like, what I always say is, like, we definitely have learned from the ground up, and if there's a mistake to be made along the way, we've made it. These days, we have a quality management system. We have a quality and compliance manager. So now when things go wrong, it runs into a non-conformity, and we actually have meetings and we change SOPs and root cause analysis. So we've come an awful long way from looking at that pallet of glass with the box of corks sitting up on top of it. So, and that's a short space of time. Like that was really.
It's so short.
That was in 2023, like when we got the bigger bottling line. Just to close the loop on that, we kept bottling. People kept hearing we were bottling. The jobs got bigger, and we had to make a decision: are we going to go further into this space or not? And of course, I'd be kind of a risk taker naturally, so I said, "Look, let's do it." There's a bit of a gap in the market at the moment. The post-COVID spike was there, so we picked up a lot of customers from over capacity bottling plants in the country post-COVID. So there's a bit of luck there as well. There's always a bit of luck. So we kind of established a relatively small bottling business in a short space of time, and have managed to keep our customers. We managed to keep all the customers that we've took along the way, and we've swung into export markets now as well. So now we have customers in Ukraine, India, Georgia, South Africa, and probably another handful of countries. So we India is quite a big one. We now have 4 customers. We have 4 importers in India now who we, supply their label, full supply of their labels to them. And thankfully, I got a few phone calls today off the back of that EU-India trade deal announced 2-3 days ago. So I think I really think Irish whiskey is going to go bananas in India. I thought it before the deal. Now I think
you did, yeah.
Now I think it's going to go bananas.
We'll come back to more about the Lighthouse Drinks business in a bit once we talk about this whiskey, but just one comment there on what you've been saying about growing the business. Like, I've watched John grow the business from nothing to where it is today, and you can't spend 5 minutes with John without hearing 100 ideas of what he's going to do, and they might sound harebrained or ridiculous at the time. You come back next week, they're already in place, and you've got this unique ability to say, "For sure, what's the worst that can happen? Surely we can figure it out." And you're a great man for the researching, great man for the ChatGPT. You'll figure it out,
Funny enough, if you want to segue into the whiskey, I was just actually using ChatGPT to figure out how many sherry casks could possibly exist with Mash Bill 6. And for one of the first times in my life, I've actually confused the life out of it. But I just text somebody who worked there who actually just told me instead, so that was a bit easier. So,
well, look, let's talk about this whiskey, because there's a lot to get our heads around with this, because there's nothing straightforward in any way about how many hands have been in the pie, people involved, approaches, non-GI compliance, you name it. This is a complicated herd whiskey. Where do we start with it?
I suppose back in the COVID, these were, as far as I'm aware, these were laid down in December 2020. There was a bit of delay then in selling them and then moving them to warehouses because of COVID. we weren't bottling then. We were just on e-commerce. We were doing very well. We're obviously in the whiskey space. We great connections in every business, in every distillery. And this came out, and we were like, should we do something here? For a very unusual move at the time for us as a retailer to buy a cask or some casks. So looked further into it, liked the idea of it, and said, you know what? Let's buy them with no particular plan. If you imagine, we didn't even have a plan to have a bottling business, not even an iota of a plan. So
Yeah,
we bought them for fun, I suppose, like the way a lot of people buy whiskey casks. Figure it out later.
and to take one step back on that, because again, there's so many layers to this particular whiskey. This thing we're talking about, roll the dice or take a chance on, is whiskey historian Fionnán O'Connor, who had a thesis that he needed to distill old mash bills, recipes from whiskies long since gone, from distilleries that no longer exist. And he approached Boan Distillery, and they said they'd be willing to lend him their distiller and recreate 10 different mash bills and barrel them up, cask them up, and make them available for sale. And you bought some of them.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you something about these releases. They're well known in the community now because there was a big enough push done on them, and they sold out. There was 144 casks, which I suppose in itself is not an absolute massive amount, but there was 10 mash bills and there was 4 cask types. So if you just go on the laws of average, there's basically 4 iterations of each mash bill in each cask. So if you take what we have here, which is the Irish Postal Distillers Association in 1953 mash bill, in an Oloroso sherry cask, there is only 3 other casks in the open market the same as this cask. So that is I think it's genius because they've gotten scarcity and a limited nature to a relatively large parcel of casks, whilst tying in insane Irish whiskey history into it. I actually think, in hindsight, really, I didn't appreciate it at the time, but in hindsight, fantastic release of casks. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that. I think it's actually really genius, really genuinely.
So when we talk about it not being GI compliant, so GI, geographical indicator, which governs the technical file of Irish whiskey, which says a style of Irish whiskey must adhere to certain rules, and pot still whiskey today has a set of rules that are different than, well, there were no rules back in 1940s or 50s about what pot still whiskey could be. Today, minimum of 30% malted barley, 30% unmalted barley, and up to 5% other grains. This one is not like that, so it doesn't fit the pot still of today. So it can't be called a pot still whiskey, even though it's made kind of the same way, or it's made as it used to be. Do we know what the mash bill is for this one in terms of the grains?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So it's 2 seconds. It is 40% malt, 40% raw barley, 15% oats, 5% wheat. So a nice bit of oats in there. Can I just say something on that, Barry? Do you want to know how stupid we are?
You're supposed to be selling yourself here, you know that?
Yeah, man, I prefer honesty over selling myself. So we were so busy at Christmas with Irish malts, and we were trying to release this, and it was due to be released pre-Christmas, and an accidental copy of the label went. Our designer designed the label with a single malt in mind. And the copy of the label that went to print had single malt Irish whiskey on it, and we figured it out on the 11th hour just before it was released. Now, how much of a bunch of idiots would we have looked like if we had released that, right? Secondly to that, so we're ringing the label printer. We made a nightmare of it. I wouldn't mind. This is a real story. The label printer is in Belfast. He was going to fly to the factory in Leeds, get a ferry back to Dublin, drive to Cork with the labels to help us to release this product before Christmas. I rang him the day before he was the day before he went on the journey. I rang him and told him, and I was like, "You better stay in Belfast, buddy." So he couldn't. So we went off. We fixed the label. It wasn't that we thought it was single malt. It was more the template label for the series had single malt on it. What happened the second time? The second set of labels had the ABV in the back label off by 1%.
Oh.
We have gotten the labels printed for this release 3 times.
You were saying earlier, you were saying you have a quality assurance manager in the office. Was he off that week? Was he? Or
yeah, she was. You know what? She actually was off for the month of December.
The place fell apart without her.
Well, look, that's it. It goes back into the system. Non-conformity is raised. That kind of stuff doesn't happen again. This was a whirlwind release. We wanted it out before Christmas. It is GI compliant.
So there's work on at the moment in the world of Irish whiskey at a government level and a national association level within the whiskey industry to amend the definitions of what the styles of whiskey could be, specifically pot still whiskey, to more reflect how whiskey used to be made. Because if we have this style of whiskey that we often call our unique style, of course, Irish pot still whiskey can't be made anywhere else in the world. There are other pot still whiskies in the world, but none of them Irish. If we want to recreate those old styles and be able to call them pot still, we have to actually amend the law. And so the legislation around it, and we have to submit that to Europe. So right now, it's on the government's desk, which we all know means it'll be about 40 years before it moves on to the next desk. But it's there anyway with submissions from, an agreement has been reached with all the distilleries about allowing a mash bill like this to now fit the definition of a pot still. But for now, like among those whiskey geeks, they love a good non-compliant GI because it can still be called Irish whiskey. And who cares if it can't be called pot still as long as we can taste a good whiskey at the end of the day, I would say.
Yeah. Like, and like just look as we're trying to build a business, so we went down the road of just being very compliant with the labeling. Like, so like last year we had 150. We just had our audit for GI audit for labeling, and Carlos, some people might know Carlos, the guy who works with us, he's had to get 150 different Irish whiskey labels together. So like in 2025, we're responsible for bringing over 125 Irish whiskies to market, which is kind of in itself really cool.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And you do it very quickly too. Your turnaround time is insane. Like, you've got your designer on speed dial, your bottles are there, and you've got all the ability to do the rest in-house.
We're getting faster. We're getting more efficient. We're just trying to invest in the right places. We're trying to. It's hard, but look, we're halfway there.
Well, look, let's come back to this whiskey. There's lots of people tasting it. Let's nose it and talk about it. So, like, I'd love, as the man behind it, I'd love you to tell us what you're getting from this. And I know you always shy away from tasting notes anytime I ask you.
If I had a choice, I'd bring Finian back on to represent me on the tasting section here. But you bring on a guy like Finian, who's a pure expert, and you bring on a master distiller, and then you ask me for tasting notes. Come on, man, give me. So for me,
we always end with the label printer. We bring the label maker on last.
Look, it's sweet. I get honey. It's dried fruits. It's a rich whiskey. I find it warming. I find obviously we've tasted it in-house between Carlos and a few guys, and we compare and contrast. One of the things I get a bit of orange from it. I don't know if you get that, but I get a little bit of warming orange. There's a little bit of spice. It warms me a bit, but like, it's a natural color. And running an Irish whiskey factory, you'd be well surprised how many whiskies are not natural color. But this is the natural color. It's 5 years old. Like, some of the stuff like that Carlos would have came up with, he mentioned honeyed malt. I thought that was a really nice way of describing it. You could argue there's a little bit of that leather and spice combo.
There's a real creaminess to this as well, and it coats your tongue, it coats your teeth, and the oats and the wheat are playing a unique role here that we're not used to with a whiskey. Irish whiskies aren't. We don't have very many whiskies with oats and wheat in them yet. This is a great example of it.
This is very different. Like, we would have given this out to we wouldn't give it up. But I think you were there. We had a bit of a sale and we got a bit of real feedback before we started selling it, and people had great feedback. I mean, look, we want to kind of make something of this. You know, another thing we're going to do, just, you know, not to digress, but when release 2 comes out, we have a WhatsApp group. We have about 250 people, and we put the next 3 vintage mash bill casks in there, and the people just do a poll and they vote the next one. But we're going to start bottling on demand. That could be a world first in Irish whiskey. So if we sell 70 bottles, we will bottle 70 bottles because we have a bottling factory. And if we bottle 300, if we sell 350 bottles, we will bottle 350 bottles. So the next time an Irish Malts Collection release goes out there, there'll be a 10-day window to buy it. And if you don't want it, that's no problem, but it will not be available after 10 days. So,
honestly, you've told me about that already. Like, that's a great approach. It keeps the risk down for everybody, and especially if you've got the stock there and you have access to the machinery and the fulfillment. That's the move.
It's we're going to call it a world first now, but like, I mean, look, it's not that we don't want people to buy it. We'll give an ample window for the purchases. But like, the last thing I want to do is bottle 500 bottles and look at it for the next 3 years on the shelf. I'd rather release a good whiskey, build up the community of buyers. Here's the next release, lads. If you want to take it, if you don't want it, don't take it. And we'll leave the rest of the whiskey in the cask to get older and to get nicer and do something else with it later on.
You're like a young Michael Dell, wasn't he doing that with computers in Limerick back in the late 90s? Or make the computers on demand. As soon as you gave them the spec, they'd make the computer. That's you now with your whiskey.
That's exactly how I feel.
I'm going to call you Michael from now on.
Call me Michael. Call me Michael Dell, no problem.
Great feedback on the flavour profile. Folks, I agree, folks. Like, when I taste this the same day you had it out on the table inside in Irish Malts that day, and I was very, very surprised by it, and thought extraordinary whiskey. Again, only 5 years old, but these are flavour profiles. It's a bit like heritage varietals of barley that are now being turned into whiskies that generate flavour profiles that we're just not used to in our generation, because they died out with the generations before us. So did these recipes. And somebody said there, it's like tastes like a pub in the 70s. And that's a great emotional tie to this, because that's what whiskey used to taste like in the pubs in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s. It was any kind of grain they could get their hands on. Oftentimes there was very little consistency at all across batches, and it was we've lost that with our efficiency and our distillation, maybe quality control now.
Just to jump in there, like, a lot of credit has to go to Boan as well, because they have, like, tracking all the distilleries that have popped up over the last 8 years. But Boan particularly, the guys who actually make it. Not just the mash bill series, a lot of the winter solstices, and they are making some really, really good whiskey. And like, I really mean that. I think that in the long run they'll succeed massively, because so much care and effort goes into what they release. Yeah,
100%. And Boan were very smart in getting involved in this program. And like you said, 10 different mash bills, 4 casks of each. Or 4 different cask types. And Fionnán, if anyone's ever had a chance to listen to Fionnán O'Connor, Dr. Fionnán O'Connor now, after his PhD, there is no more eloquent, loquacious, time-consuming in the best way of a man who can talk about Irish whiskey all day long, going all the way back to the 1300s and before it. And just a very quick plug there in the middle of your spiel. But I recorded a 7-part podcast series with Fionnán 2 years ago. I commissioned Fionnán. I said, Fionnán, I want to pay you. I want you to come down to my house. I want you to stay the weekend with me, and I'm going to record the history of Irish whiskey with you. And he said, geez, will we get it all in the weekend? I said, we will. So we sat down and we talked for about 15 hours. And I left the recording going, and we've chopped it down to 7 episodes. It's about 8 hours of content. It's on Stories and Sips. If anybody wants to listen to the complete history of Irish whiskey with Fionnán, I don't say much, and you'll be delighted that I don't, because we just want Fionnán to talk, going all the way back to the 1300s to the present day. And he'll talk about this vintage mash bill series in there and what he's done with it. But it'll give you some sense of the evolution of Irish whiskey. That's there for you. 3 Drams, remember, you can get hold of that in Stories and Sips. Anyway, back to those are interestingly, those are the 10 different mash bills that were developed by Boan. They released a kit with the new make spirit of all 10 of them. So number 6 there is the one on the right of the glass.
And we shipped every one of those kits.
Is there anything you haven't done? Got the label right. Back to the whiskey then. So you decided to just release it as it was, unadulterated, no colour, no water, cask strength. Boan and Finan did the work. That was enough. Put it in a bottle and sell it.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's exactly it. Like they really done the hard work here. To be fair, we're just lucky, I suppose, that we bought a couple of casks, and you know they were reasonably priced as well for for what they were. Such a limited release. Yeah, we've gotten a lot deeper into the whiskey game and the cask game since, but we've nothing like them really.
What's your next one going to be, and when are you going to do it? We were going to do St. Patrick's Day, but it's probably too early. So maybe April or May. It'll be voted on the WhatsApp group. We've three other casks, all different. I know one is from the Bandon Distillery. I thought that was really cool sounding. That was just a pure gut feeling. We're going to Bandon Distillery mash bill. That's cool. That's down the road or whatever. Let's get that one. Yeah.
And the 4 cask types we have are different as well. So the other ones are not similar. And it's theoretically. It's a release series for our own online website. We're trying to involve the people in it, especially through the WhatsApp group. And you might be in that WhatsApp group, right? But like we released it to people early on the WhatsApp group with a discount. I mean, the same discount is available now tonight for this show, which is decent. I think it's $119.95 down to $99.95. And we've only kept it on sale for this show. So we're going to just close the sales in another week after the show, I'd say. And that is Vintage Mash Bill Series 1 done and gone. Gone.
When it's gone, it's gone. Do you want us to share the WhatsApp group link in our newsletter too?
We'd love it. We don't send much in there. We try to keep it unique or special.
We charge €100 though for inserts of WhatsApp groups in the newsletter. Like, will I just invoice you for that, or
I'll just send you a bottle of this for free? We'll do a
deal. We'll put that in there in the email with all the discounts as well. And by the way, and we'll talk about the discounts in a second. This is a very good whiskey, by the way. So congratulations on this. Like you were right to bottle it.
It was really difficult. We did it. We just took it on in a really difficult time period, and the labels. Poor Ryan, who you know very well, he was tearing his hair out. But look, that's what it's like in business. It just doesn't go smoothly all the time.
I know, and Ryan needs a good shout out there. He does a lot of the logistics for 3 Drams and helping out with chasing DPD and UPS and everybody around the world, making sure everyone gets their package. This is great. And do you have a bottle to hand or no? Because the bottle shape is different. Let me put you up there full screen because I want people to see the how do we do this? There we go. Square.
Oh,
yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, it's a Harrison bottle, made in Germany. It's a nice premium, unique bottle. There's not much whiskey in it. It turned out lovely. We went for simple enough, descriptive. Look at that. Thank you very much, Mark Duffy.
The reviews are in and they're not bad. They're great.
Yeah.
Fair play to you.
If we were going to do something like this, we have to put something in there that was worthy of people's money.
Now with releasing this into 3 Drams, that means that every time you come out with one, there'll be an expectation that you'll come back to us.
I love it, Mark. I love it. Michael said never cried away from a press conference.
Alan says he'll be buying and adding to his special occasion collection. This is the same Alan now who was reducing his spending on whiskey there last week. I remember you, Alan. Now I remember you telling me you just spent your last big amount on the JJ Corrie release, and you're back here now again. Good man. Fair play.
Thank you.
We'll all go bankrupt together.
Thanks to all for all the continued support for all of us, for Black Emerald, Balnat, Three Drams, our Smalls. Like we wouldn't be here in employment and try to make it work if it wasn't for the community. So I would say thank you on behalf of everybody.
And thank you, John. Like, you've been an amazing partner for Stories and Sips and Three Drams over the years. And you're a great man for saying yes, and then maybe an hour later calling me going, what did we agree to again? What is it we're supposed to be doing for you? But the yes comes first, which is, it's great to work with such positivity.
I know.
Let me put up the discounts here. We'll stay on there while we just throw up the old discounts because people are afraid of their life, they'll miss out. How do we get this up there? There we go. There we go. So let's explain the discounts, folks. Black Emerald, you'll get free shipping when you purchase any of the Black Emerald whiskies or bundle them together on irishmalts.com. There's the code, Black Emerald 3D. 20 euros off the Irish Malts collection. Look at my spelling on collection. It's almost like your label maker. Put that together, the spelling error. Using code IMC3D on irishmalts.com. And that can be combined with the Black Emerald discount. So if you were to buy the Irish Malts collection and the Black Emerald, you'd get 20 euros off and you'd get free shipping.
Yeah.
FYI. And then fantastic discount from Balna on their shop, 10% off their products using the code 3 Drams, the number 3 Drams. Pay attention to the case as well, uppercase and lowercase on the different codes when shopping on balnawhiskey.com. Don't worry about screenshotting these or jumping over, falling over the dog, trying to take a picture of this. You'll get these by newsletter tomorrow as well. You'll have all these in your email.
If I just throw something in there, so for anybody shopping there, even not just representing our smalls, but the Three Brands Black, we have a couple of signed bottles by Simon Zebo, which are pretty cool, left. If somebody wanted one, just email us at hello@irishmalls.com. If you use the Black Emerald code, you have to buy Black Emerald, so Black Emerald aren't sponsoring everybody else, but if you use the Black Emerald code, you could technically buy all 3 on Irish Malts. I'm not trying to take the sale away from Balna, but there is different discounts. There is different discounts there, and they can be.
Hold on a second now.
This couldn't have been more complex. Like this is.
Now, what happens if we invert this slide upside down? Does it give us more discount? Like, what are all the complications we're adding to this thing? Hold on a second now. What are we taking away from Balna? You're trying to sell Balna to Irish Malts as well, is it?
I'm trying to not leave Balna out. So, like, if we're saying use the Black Emerald code and buy the Irish Malts one with it, that really, in my mind, that leaves Balna out. If you want Balna and you like the liquid, you can also buy the Irish Malts, and you still get free shipping.
You'll honour the free shipping. I see. Okay.
But you use the Black Emerald code, you must buy Black Emerald. So I'm trying to be a politician here.
It couldn't have been clearer. That's perfect. Well, as long as Ballina gets the sales, we don't mind. Okay, so anyway, that's the screen there, folks. We'll send this out to you by email as well, and we will do our best to make the email even more complex. To the number of hurdles that we can build to sell whiskey, we'll find them. Okay, lots of people are spending all kinds of money on these. Top spot. Simon says the top spot of all time for him is this whiskey, the collection, the Irish Malts collection, and the Old Cumber 7-year-old from episode 3. High praise there. Shane says all 3 of these bottles will be ordered this evening. Good man, Shane.
Wow, gee, man.
Unbelievable. Alan says, I believed him when he told me he wasn't spending any money. I know, sure, Alan, look, you put a good sniff of whiskey under your nose and you're a great man for buying it. Thomas says, thank God today's payday. We must make sure we align 3 Drams with paydays. This is the secret to success.
And you know, like, I recognize nearly every name, and like when I see the names, it's like it's great to connect with people, and it's great to be able to say thank you for all the support you've given over all the years. So
that's brilliant. Nice community of people. Bottle ordered. The servers are melting down there now. Lighthouse drinks. John says, great night, well done. This Has been a great night. Look, you give 3 discounts, and there's always one who'll want another one. Buy 2, get 1 free. Right, we're booting Philip. Philip barred now from the next tasting. Tell me this, as a man very close to all aspects of the world of Irish whiskey,
Yeah.
where do you see things going in a kind of a landscape that's changing very quickly? You talk about India and the trade deal there. You're already there a few months ahead of them, but where's it all going over the next 12 months?
I think it goes up, and I think that it doesn't go up significantly in the developed world. I think it goes up in the developing world, and I'm very strong on that feeling. So, like, you know, we've spent decades telling people not to drink, which is fine. Maybe that's the right thing to do, but they're not as keen on telling people that in the developing world, and the markets are still expanding. Like, the way I describe India, like, it's 1.6 billion people. Like, think about it this way: that is 16 sets of 100 million people. That is 16 sets of 100 million people. So, like, we've had one Indian customer come in and buy 200,000 bottles of whiskey from us in a 4 to 5 month window, starting their Irish whiskey off in the Haryana state around Delhi. So I think that Irish whiskey grows. Like, everybody thinks like that we've been trying to raise money as a business lately, and nobody wants to invest in whiskey because its name is tarnished in the media. But, like, its name is tarnished not because sales are down. The Global Trade Report just showed that sales globally were up 2%. The name is down because certain businesses unfortunately failed to build global brands inside a 5-year window. Like, that's unfortunate. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but nobody is outside of the conglomerates is building an Irish whiskey brand in 5 years that's going to be self-sufficient and self-sufficient and on its own 2 feet. And that is why. So smaller businesses, when I say smaller, I mean the distilleries that cost 10 million and 20 million, they went out with the sole idea that they would make more expensive whiskey than the bulk distilleries, put a label on it and sell it as a brand in a 5-year window. That didn't work for the most part. And that is why it looks like, on the face of it, maybe that Irish whiskey is failing as way too strong, but not a sexy proposition. But the reality is, if you believe the Irish Whiskey Global Trade Report, the global sales were up 2%. Ukraine, Poland is the second biggest Irish whiskey market in the world now, which is insane. Poland, Ukraine, India, Japan, all in triple-digit growth for Irish whiskey.
Is there a move away from, not so much away from the US, but a big diversification so in place, considering maybe the unpredictability of the US market?
Oh, definitely. And even before Trump and tariffs, I think that was already evident. Like, if you set up an Irish whiskey brand today and you thought you were going to take over America with it, just park it and go somewhere else. Redesign your product, make it more entry level, go to the places in the world where they're looking to buy it. And like what I always say is, funnily enough, what I've been saying for the last year is, like, if we can sell 250,000 bottles, now that sounds like a lot of whiskey, and it is, but these are entry level bottles, very, very low margin. If we can sell 250,000 bottles of Irish whiskey to India with a 150% tariff, how easy should a 15% tariff be in America? You know, so, like, you know, involving something else that's gone to America at the moment, which isn't whiskey, and the tariff wasn't that prohibitive. So, like, I think Irish whiskey will grow, and I think you would see it growing in Nigeria and in Africa, in India, in Eastern Europe, Poland, Ukraine. I don't see it really growing in America or in mainland Europe, even though Germany is a big market, but I think it's a relatively static market.
Yeah, it's a tough old one, and you'll see some businesses are reporting record profits in the whiskey industry, and others are reporting record losses. And I don't think it's down to there's a lot of things being overlooked when people talk about the rise or the fall of aspects of Irish whiskey, in that in any industry you'll have individual businesses that don't make it for a variety of reasons, that nothing to do with global trade or tariffs or anything like that. But like you said, some awful lot of businesses out there that have been built that haven't invested in brand building, but they've got the shiniest stills in the world.
Yeah, and like if you look at it, let's flip it around. Somebody has just put millions of euro into Portscourt Distillery. I believe you'll hear about a 5 or 6 million acquisition of Waterford Distillery soon. West Cork Distillers just posted 4.3 million in profits. Like there's loads of good news stories. It's just you don't really see them as headlines because it's easier to sell a headline when something goes wrong. And like plenty of good stuff happening. And I think we're in a bit of a downward, and even at that, the global volume is growing. Whilst we're in a negative environment. So like, I don't see how it doesn't get better over the next few years. It's been cyclical for how many 100 years? Is it going to stop being cyclical now?
I mean, there's people working in the Irish whiskey industry now who remember the 1960s and 70s. Like they were there when they first joined the world of Irish whiskey. People like John Quinn and Tullamore and Ger Buckley and Billy Lighton, who were involved since the 1970s in the world of Irish whiskey. And I've had conversations where they've said this is nothing compared to the dangers of the times in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's never been more Irish whiskey produced, and there's never been more Irish whiskey sold, and that sometimes gets lost when you hear of a distillery closing its doors.
So I heard it recently. There has never been a year where more Irish whiskey has been sold. So like, what are we complaining about?
Yeah. Well, look, keep getting those labels printed the right way without spelling errors on them, and you'll be doing fine. Like.
Well, look, if you will fix those words on these slides, we'll do a deal.
Honestly, I'm mortified. Question here from Simon. I'll let you answer it. Can you make the spirit here and age in India to get around tariffs?
No, you can't. It has to age on the island of Ireland, and you could get, depending on the states. All the states are different. So I know down there with the Portuguese influence state, Goa is a city there on the west coast of India. That's one particular state where imported bottled Irish whiskey and bulk has the same tariffs. But then the other states in India, you could pay less tariffs by shipping mature bulk down there, but it gets bottled in India then. And in these countries that are still developing, they view foreign-made product or what they call bottled in origin product. It's actually called BIO. It's a thing in India. So they would view, if you had the same liquid from the same distillery in Ireland and you shipped it down in bulk to India and it was bottled in India and a label went on it and it went on the shelf, and if you had the same liquid from the same distillery bottled in origin in Ireland and sent as a bottle stock and they were both next to each other on the shelf, the bottled in origin price would be way, way, way higher than the bottled in India price with the same liquid in the same bottle. So that's what it's like. You know, we grew up here in Ireland where we never really saw foreign-made things as we did. Of course, we always look at BMWs, things like that. But in those countries, they just look so greatly at stuff that's made in Europe, made in other parts of the world. And I suppose we're latching onto the bottled in origin thing. You know, it's great. You can't make champagne in Ireland. You can't make Irish whiskey in India, and you can't mature it there. And if we can, but I actually think we should have rules that some of it should be bottled here, like Scotland. Like you have to bottle Scottish single malt in Scotland, if I'm correct. Yeah. Well, like, that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what are they doing? They're protecting Scottish jobs. They're protecting all sorts of things. Why the hell aren't we considering that here?
And we don't often talk about that you can bottle Irish whiskey anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and here's
as long as
when it comes to trying to drop, but like this is potentially interesting stuff for the people here, because like if liquid gets exported in bulk out of Ireland to China, and a Chinese plant in the outskirts of Shanghai are bottling the Irish whiskey, do you think they're putting an application into the Department of Agriculture up in Dublin for the GI label verification? No. And to be fair, DAFM are aware of that. I've had loads of discussions with them about it. They're aware of it. They're trying to think and figure out how. So like we're almost penalised to a degree here in Ireland by protecting our national product, whereas we've had labels that have been denied and stuff. And you know, what if you were a smart business person overseas? What you do is you just buy the bulk and ship it out, whatever label you want on it. So there's some inequality there, right? But like, to be fair to the government, to be fair to Taffin, who we have a very good relationship with, they're very aware of it. It's just not an easy fix overnight.
No. Yeah, and it moves very slowly, even with consensus.
Yeah.
It'll move very, very slowly. We've covered it all. We've everything short of solving world wars. We've covered tonight.
Well, look, that's very confident. Simon, thank you very much. We're raising money at the moment as a company, so if you're interested, send me an email.
Cheers. We brought you. We gathered you here today to solicit investment. We should put John in a 5-second delay.
That's you. That's your 10% commission gone anyway.
We weren't supposed to mention that. Kevin says Black Emerald ordered. Amazing. There's look, every month since March we've done this. So I took over three Drams in March last year, thanks to John letting go of it. And every month since, we've had comments that say it's the best month ever. And what I love about that is, for somebody, every month was the best. And it's not the same month for everybody. And it just goes to show how different our tastes are, how varied our preferences are, and what one will love or 100 will love, and one will say, no, it's not for me. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? And so long may we have access to great whiskies to never repeat one on 3 Drams. That's my goal. Never give the same whiskey twice if we can avoid it.
It's such a great service, though. It really, really is.
Started by John, by the way. John started 3 Drams in the middle of COVID, and John was on the Late Late Show in the middle of COVID, before one of the Christmases, promoting 3 Drams, and got an amazing response from the nation at the time. Everyone at home thirsty and alone, wanting a drink, and you grew. I mean, fair play to you. You kept a lot of people's thirst quenched during tough times.
I know, yeah. You should see it, Barry. We had parents in living rooms putting boxes together and COVID, and like I think there's some photos somewhere. Like, it's incredible, really. It's a great service. It really, really, really is. Look what you get to taste, genuinely.
I know. We're very lucky. And we'll keep it going. So we won't shut it down. So
no, I hope not.
Right, we'll keep it. Hope not.
5 or 6 years now, isn't it? Like, I mean, that's decent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going a while. And look, we'll keep building on it, and we'll keep bringing great whiskies out. And I have some plans in 2026 to grow the membership. So you might need more family members to come in and fill boxes. Gary says 3 Drams is better than going to the gym. That's our new tagline, actually. 3 Drams certainly is better than going to the gym on a Thursday night. We're going to advertise outside gyms around Ireland. We'll have billboards outside gyms. Oh, look, there's a blast from the past now. Diarmuid says he remembers that Late Late Show. His wife bought the membership after it.
Genie, wow. Jesus, well done there. That's some going.
Diarmuid must be due a price increase, so as he's been here for so long, like.
I'd be arguing for a price discount.
Listen, thanks a million for all the help and support with 3 Drams and Stories and Sips. I wouldn't have a business without you. So fair play. Thanks a million, and Ryan and Carlos and everyone, Caroline and Karen. Everyone's just been unbelievable down in Little Island, and I can't go in and spend 5 minutes with you. You're always in there for an hour because you get chatting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
But good luck with the rest of the Vintage Mash Bill series, the Irish Malts collection. And if you want to throw them into 3 Drams, there'll be nobody here who will turn you down. And we'd love to find a place for them.
No, if you want us, Barry, let us know. We'll be on anytime.
Brilliant.
I suppose I can, with the bottling plant now, I can bring a little bit of a wider view of. I'm not an expert, but I can bring a bit of an extra view of maybe some more of the global affairs.
Yes. Well, listen, go on away to bed. You've had a long day.
I'm Wednesday. I'm hooked on Wednesday on Netflix. Did you watch it now?
Oh yeah, with the Adams Family spin-off.
And we found out whilst watching it. We just watched episode 3 in season 2. It's filmed in Power Score. The waterfall
It's
in the
funny.
background is
Go
the
away.
waterfall in Power Score. Yeah.
And look at the comment that came in at the same time. It'd be great to get some for Cullen on 3 Drams.
Yeah, and look, they're coming back where we bottle all of the Cullen whiskies, and there's a nice order in now for just once they get funded in the next week or two. So I think you'll see a lot keeping out for Cullen. And I'm sure Barry, it actually is a very good idea to help get them back on the map to get them on here.
Let's do it. Let's get for Cullen in. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Colin says not many pages left in the whiskey journal. All right, we might have to give out. I think we still have whiskey journals. We'll have a look. We'll if we do, we'll try and include some on the next kit.
No,
Sinead, John, going away. Listen, thanks a million for joining us. You're a gent.
No, thanks, Barry.
You're a horse and cart of a man. Cheers, John. Sláinte. Cheers. Now, there we are. Now, 3 great whiskies, three great guests, and 3 different styles of whiskey that you and expressions you wouldn't have maybe tried before, and lots of very quick there on the old ordering as well. So thanks a million to Stacey and to Finian and to John for joining us tonight and their support, and also thanks to you for your support, not just with 3 Drams, but of the Irish whiskey industry. Somebody there mentioned you've been members of 3 Drams since day one. That means you've been supporting the Irish whiskey industry and small producers for 5 or 6 years. That doesn't go unnoticed, because for large conglomerates, they won't notice one person buying a whiskey or one night where suddenly 100 bottles get bought. But for a small producer, when there's suddenly a big push or a big sale after a tasting, it can mean the world of difference, and it can mean that a certain bill gets paid that otherwise wouldn't have been paid. And I know that because I've received messages from producers even since March who've told me what it's meant to them to have an audience like yourselves, a community like yourselves. So you deserve a big round of applause for your own support. And I know, look, it's not all altruistic. You get a drop of whiskey out of it as well, but you are doing something that does make a difference. And you'll notice that the majority of our businesses that we work with, they're small. You're often getting to meet the people who put their own money into starting the business. These are not massive global operations. Rarely have we had a global whiskey brand here, because look, you've tasted a lot of those, but what you haven't tasted often are the whiskies that aren't always easy to find, aren't on the supermarket shelf necessarily, and require a bit of donkey work to get them. So you deserve a lot of credit for all you're doing there. All right. I think that's it for tonight, folks. We've had a great night. Lots of you enjoyed hearing from John and Stacey and Finian as well. The last one was an interesting whiskey, all right, just because it was so complex, that vintage mash bill. I also have a couple of those casks myself that in time will be released through Stories and Sips. I have 2 of them, and they're still maturing, so they're the same age. They're 5 years old at the moment. 2 different mash bills than what John has, and they'll find a home in a bottle and be released as single casks through Stories and Sips in the future. So no plans to anything with them immediately, but keeping an eye on them anyway for the moment. The next tasting, Alan, great question. What's in the next tasting? I don't have the 3 whiskies finalised. There's lots of communications back and forth, but I'll know in the next week what our 3 whiskies are for our next tasting, which will be on February 28th, if my memory serves me correctly. Let me see, last Thursday of the month in February, and it'll be the 26th. Thursday 26th. There's a few of you had some challenges with your subscription if you were on a 3-month or a 6-month subscription where your subscription went on hold or didn't renew after 3 months. We've been working behind the scenes trying to fix some development issues, some technical issues. If you have a 3 or a 6-month subscription, you would have been renewing it on the date anniversary. So if you joined on the 15th of the month, 3 months later, it would have renewed on the 15th of the month. Well, everyone had a different date and was causing all kinds of havoc in the back end. So we'll be consolidating everybody who's on a 3-month or a 6-month subscription to renew on the 5th of the anniversary of their month. So if you joined on the 15th, 3 months later, it'll renew on the 5th instead. And just to standardize it all, if you're paying monthly, it won't make any difference. Just in case you're wondering, how come I'm being charged again? But if there's any confusion, you can get in touch and we'll explain it. That only applies to a few of you. Simon says, yet another fantastic tasting on the 99th day of January. We're almost through it. But thanks, everyone. I'm going to let you all go. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you have any questions about any Irish whiskey anytime, you can reply to any of the emails I send you. If you want those discount codes, keep an eye on your emails tomorrow. I'll send them out to you. And as always, thank you for your support of 3 Drams. I love these sessions, look forward to them every month, and can't wait for February. Slàinte. Cheers, everybody.